Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Good evening and happy Tuesday night. It is another edition of Talkin' Comics here on PCKC TV, joined by my good friends Christopher Jackson of Comicon Kansas City and William Binderup at Elite Comics.
Greetings, John. Thank you.
Well,
Guys,
that opening really makes me miss Planet Comic-Con. Every week I see that crowd and I'm like, dang, I missed that.
I know, guys. These are all folks that we're going to have a chance to be with again, so hopefully very soon. But if nothing else, it just reminds us of, man, it's a pretty cool place to be, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy the Elite Comics party on the pillar there. So
It's always a party.
We're having that right now. That was pretty cool.
So we got some fun stuff happening this week. Obviously we have two very special guests that we're not going to waste much time in welcoming, but I do want to remind everybody we are talking comics. So comments, questions, whatever. This is a great opportunity to get up close and personal with two very, very prolific comic creators. And then later on in the evening, William, you're going to give us a preview of some of the titles and books that are going to be hitting the shelves this week, right?
That's actually not a regular size week, but we're getting there, getting closer to regular size. More new stuff this week than last week.
You know, you were hedging your bets last week, but you blew me away with some of the stuff that was popping out there. So I can't wait to see what you show
Good
off
week.
this week.
Good week.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Chris, do you want to do the honors?
yes, I would like to invite two wonderful creators to the stream with us tonight. We have author and comic book writer JP Roth and comic artist Dawn McTeigue.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome,
Hi, everyone.
JP from Los Angeles and Dawn from Calgary, Alberta.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, we're going coast to coast if you consider Kansas City a coast, right?
Yeah.
You're stretching there. Although there was a big party at Lake of the Ozarks this weekend, so it's kind of like a water.
Well, it's great to have you two joining us. We got lots of great questions. We also have a lot of people that are super anxious to say hi. A lot of folks that are just already jumping in and are just thrilled to see y'all. So pretty cool stuff. So we're going to be bringing them in for a couple of questions, comments, and stuff like that. Like this, Kara says, I know them. Hopefully you guys know Kara. If not, you will after.
Yes.
Your fans are just shouting your name.
That's awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, guys, it's been fun to learn more about you. When Chris said that you're going to be coming on, I immediately started doing a deep dive into Rothic, into the titles, and kind of getting more familiar with this sort of stuff. But what I'd love to hear is probably a little bit more the origin story in your own words. JP, you have a really interesting path to where you are now, but 2012, you had a kind of an interesting idea, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. Actually, I was selling the script of Ancient Dreams originally for film. And once I looked into it and talked with everyone there, people were like, no, you could really make this a cult classic if you went and made a comic series out of it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have no idea how to do that, but I guess that's what I better go do. I called some artists I knew who I grew up with who were very amazing, Mike Crome, Sabine Rich, and Dawn McTeigue, who's here. We actually all worked on the first book together. Everybody did like a group draw, and the rest kind of just went crazy from there.
So Dawn, what's your recollection of all that? Because this was something really new for you to be invited to partake in such a pretty big endeavor, right?
Yeah. Well, Joe really takes a lot of the, JP Roth really takes a lot of the credit for that, as far as just not accepting no or fears or worries or I can't do this for an answer. So she really powered me through and I'm so grateful for that. And it was really fun. And JP she had a dream and we were like, okay. So, from there, like none of us really knew how to create a comic book or what to do, but we did it anyway, and it was so much fun.
I think
Dawn was actually the only person who knew anything about it. She says I take a lot of the credit, but really, Dawn was the major fan who dragged me to all the artists and was like, ask him to do it, ask this person to do it. She knew a lot about layout. She's a big comic book reader, and I wasn't. I mean, I read a few. I love X-Men and Danger Girl, but I wasn't like her or anything.
So it seems like in every origin story, there's always this interesting turn that kind of goes, well, then there's this one time at San Diego Comic-Con. And you guys have your own sort of one time at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
How did it, where things were starting, and a lot of the artists talk about all the things they did right, and then there were some things that maybe weren't so right.
You did nothing right. You didn't know how to do anything.
What was that like? Yeah.
We didn't know anything.
Yeah.
We drew the first comic on A4 printer, 11 by whatever.
Whatever you find at a local office for your printer is what I drew it on.
And we didn't know. We actually made our first comic at Copy for Less because someone who had read my script originally, who was at the Anaheim comic, got us in there. And they were like, you need to have a comic in 2 months. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know how to make one. But then we had to do it. So we had about 3 days or 2 days to print it. So we actually printed it at Copy for Less. And that was the first comic we sold.
So Ron,
it's worth a lot right now.
Yeah, where are those copies? You want to take them back? Those PCKC graded. Those are probably your retirement now. So you could go back. You could honestly go back to Copies for Less and make more, and no one would know.
Yeah. Well, we upgraded really quickly. I realized that. I didn't know that most people sell comics for under $5. Like it's the regular version. I knew nothing about the $3.99 price tag. Mm-hmm. And I guess that was glory for me because I just started selling them for $20. I didn't know they sold for less. And I think had it not been, and everyone just paid it and happily, we gave them a rolled up print for free because we didn't know you weren't supposed to.
And it was tied with a bow. We tied them all with a pretty ribbon bow.
And people were like, next time maybe don't roll this awful piece of paper. So, but I think that really helped us move forward. Obviously, we had to rise to that level of quality. I felt if that's what we were selling the books for, once I got to know a little bit more of the industry, I realized, okay, well, if I want to keep my price tag, I better make sure the art is spellbinding. And we have some pretty good paper and good printers and all that. And I think that really helped us as well because we kind of made a fancy name for ourselves. And I think that helped set us apart a little bit. And it was all really just the gods. It wasn't us. Like we didn't know what we were doing. So it was all very fate-like how it happened, actually.
And that
part of the plan.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's cool though that you set your price point. You're like, I didn't know there couldn't be $20, but once you price it $20 and people pay it, you're like, hey, we're the $20 issue people now.
Yeah, that's right. We all went up from there.
And when they look at it, they're like, $20? This must be awesome. Who asked $20 for an issue?
People were like, why is it $20? I was like, well, I always told people, if you don't like it, come back and, we'll give you your money back. But people came back to buy more. So it was awesome.
Nice.
Yay, yes.
We've been very particular with how we've done the books. I know for some comic stores, they don't come out as often. And of course, that is a bummer for people. But I only have ever used Ebas, Mike Crome, Sabine Rich, and Dawn McTeigue on doing my interiors. I've never gone with, I wouldn't say cheap art, but I would say perhaps artists that aren't as well versed in their craft. I've been able to use the best, and they've always stayed with me through the whole thing. And that helped more than anything keep the price point, because everybody wanted Dawn's work. Everybody wanted Dawn's work. Nobody cared what my price point was. So that also really helped, is having the amazing artists that, took the project on. Everyone worked for free for like 2 years till we made some money.
Also, Joe really cultivated us. Like, she had to have faith in me. Like, when I look back at the first comic book, so this is the one that was drawn on printer paper. And this is the one that was taken to San Diego with, the wrong spec and everything. And I die when I look at that art. Like, I wouldn't hire me, but Joe hired me and really cultivated the art and put in the time on us, So it's not just on us, for instance. It's that she really put in the time to cultivate us.
No, it's them. It was them. They're the best. They're a dream team.
Well, so JP, when we look at like the themes of your books, I mean, so Ancient Dreams was that first one. Was that the first thing you took to San Diego? Was something off of that?
Yeah, that was the teaser issue of Ancient Dreams.
Right.
So the one that we took to Anaheim was actually the first issue that was printed by Avenue 4 and beautifully done.
Okay.
That was the one that we took to our actual first con, where we were right between two really amazing artists. And I think that really helped us too. I don't know how we got there on the floor.
Yeah. Placement's a big deal for sure.
Yeah. Between two of the best.
Placement's good if you're good.
Yeah.
But if you're between two awesome people and you're 2 steps down, not good.
Right.
As long as you're awesome, they go straight to you.
Sorry.
As long as her art's awesome, they'll go straight to you. But if you're between 2 awesome people, that could really kill you. But
that's true. If you suck, it could be.
She saved your butt on that one.
We got a lot of eyes on the art early on.
Yeah. So JP, a lot of your characters, a lot of your style, a couple of commonalities, between Ancient Dreams, Southern Nightgown, DiVinica, Theory of Magic. What am I missing here? Rem 8. All of these, a lot of strong female leads, a lot of stories of perseverance and empowerment. How would where does that kind of come from for you? What sort of storyteller did you want to be in those early goings, and how has that evolved since then?
Well, I've always been really interested in mythology. It's what I studied. So I have my degrees in literature and mythology, and fine arts as well. I actually started to be an artist and then realized that I'm not as good as I wanted to be. So I moved to writing. But I've always been fascinated with that. And as far as I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles in my own life. And I think a lot of women have. It doesn't matter where you were born or what your circumstance was. Everybody has, and I know everyone does, but women face a certain set of obstacles that, unless you kind of know how to deal with them head on, you can often find yourself ending up in some difficult situations. And a lot of my characters actually start quite weak. They start quite scared, a lot of human error in them. And it's a buildup over time. I like to show how you can be strong, not strong hard, not strong men hating, but strong in yourself, in your femininity. And I think what really magnifies that is the goddesses of all cultures. It also brings cultures together because there's so many repeats of the same story in different cultures. And I love that. That can give a growth to women and help people. And I think a lot of people have found it to resonate with them as well. And so I'm really glad for that. But it's definitely taken from personal experience.
And Dawn, how do those stories translate to you? How do those stories inspire you as an artist? I mean, you said, like you said, JP is the persistent in recruiting you, but there has, beyond that persistence and that friendship that you've had for a long time, there's got to be something else in there in the work that really carries you forward too as an artist. And what are some of those things?
it keeps me so interested because I love being able to draw all kinds of different outfits and characters and hair colors and hairstyles and nationalities and all of that. And Jo has that in all of her stories, like the mythological theme that does run throughout all of them, but then also has the characters finding their strength, and all of those things are just so fun for me to draw. So it's very exciting. And then Jo also does give me a lot of creative freedom. I do tend to give her a lot of antlers in return. It's an inside joke. I have provided her with antler covers. We don't know how many times.
She's obsessed with headpieces. I end up actually putting them in my stories because she just loves drawing them. So I end up adding them. Dawn also really likes badass women. So I write the character. DiVinica is definitely written with all of Dawn's preferences in mind.
Yeah.
She really likes girls who kick ass. And not always do I have that happen. I look at the other side of it a lot. Abuse and stuff like that does happen to women on a regular basis. And I investigate a lot of that and how to fight back. Dawn loves it if the woman is just pure fight all the time. So for DiVinica, she's a ass kicker from the beginning.
Yeah, so we have a couple of covers here that you guys sent us to share. I love the art. The art's amazing.
Thank you.
But
it's all by watercolor. It's all hand drawn as well. The entire DiVinica series is done by hand.
Wow. Very old school. Very cool. And the great thing about it gives it a very organic look. Yeah. So
cool if she had some antlers.
Yeah. Not in this one.
I'm sure they're coming.
Maybe soon, yeah.
So, Dawn, is each of these pages, are these the book you're doing painted pages for every page?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
mentioned
awesome.
a while back that they were a little slower than some other pages because of the painting on each and every interior.
Yeah, it took a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it that some of the comments are strong female leads from strong female artists, absolutely where we are today. So yeah, Rob, totally. This is what it's about. And that's the cool thing about it. There's always been themes, these themes that are explored in comics. When comics are at their best, I think they touch on the themes of the other or the outcast. But I think what we are starting to see more and more of now is female leads and female stories, because it's not just about the characters; it's about the stories too that are starting to come to the forefront and capture people's attention. And it's something that the both of you have probably seen change over the last, the 8 years you've been doing this. So
absolutely, there's been a ton of change in it. Even we were just talking about it on a podcast recently, on one of my podcasts, about how there's been such an influx as well of female artists. When we started, of course, there's always been good female artists in the industry for sure.
Yeah.
But now it feels like they've really come in droves, and I think it's good. It's becoming a more welcoming environment in what was very much for 75 years a male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
A lot of females are coming on as fans and artists, which is awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break here because one of the things that we like to do during these live streams is to recognize some of the amazing folks that join us at Comicon, Comicon Kansas City every single year. Folks that we haven't seen in a little while. It's been a minute, and hope to see again sometime in the future. This week we're taking a real. We're really going to be looking at some of our local Kansas City comic book retailers, but we definitely encourage you all to explore your local purveyors, as those folks have. It's been a little bit of a rough go for the last few months, as I'm sure William can attest to. So first one up here we got, Chris, is Clint's Comics here in Kansas City. You some good folks there that you've known for a good long time.
That is run by Sharon now. It was run by Jim for many, many years, and Jim died just a few years back, right after the 50th anniversary of Clint's Comics, the oldest comic store in Kansas City, maybe one of the oldest operating comic shops in the country. It's on Main Street.
Wow.
Yeah, those guys have been around for a good long time.
They've got an amazing selection, and Jim has supported Planet since the very first show back in 1999. I took flyers into Jim back then. I'd always deliver them personally. He'd always put up a poster in the door, always put out my flyers. and often set up at the show, generally set up at the show.
Yeah.
He missed a few years here and there, but overall, he set up for many years, and then he had his 50th anniversary celebration at the show 3 years ago.
Yeah, we miss him, but it's good to see Clint's legacy continue. It's one of those shops that it's be hard to replace here in Kansas City for sure. So let's go back in time a little bit in the sense of your introduction to comics, introduction to because JP, it didn't sound like comics was the first place you thought you were going to go for your storytelling, but it became a good place. But were there, as you kind of look into it, was there something, as you look at either creators today or when you were growing up, certain creators that really, or maybe even not even in comics, authors or other people that have inspired you along the way? Oh,
there's so many people. There's so many people that have inspired me along the way. I was originally working in TV and film. I was doing scripts and lore for games and stuff like that. But of course, I've always been a massive fan of certain writers. I love Anne Rice. I cried the first time I met her at Wizard World, bawled my eyes out. I really learned a lot from looking at Arthur Adams and Joyce Chin. I love their work and how they work together as a couple. I love his detail. I studied a lot of people when I first started. I studied, of course, J. Scott Campbell and Ali Garza, Eric, of course, who's been a huge influence in all of this. We couldn't have even done it without him. I studied all the people Dawn told me to study, but I ended up completely falling in love with a lot of I really like the independent series. I love the big two as well, but I love when people hit it with a new series. It's fascinating for me. It's like getting a new book, and I read so many books. I like to be able to read. And that's also quite different about my comics. I think that's why everyone calls them Rothic novels. Mm-hmm. Again, I didn't know how many words were supposed to go in a comic book. So I just put a bunch of writing in. And I think that's kind of become a thing now with my books as well. There's like 3,000 to 5,000 words in each book. And people really liked that also. I've been watching Joe Hill a lot lately. He's incredible. What they've done with Lock and Key is spellbinding. I love the Walking Dead series. I don't know. There's been a lot over the years. Mainly the people Dawn tells me to like, though, are the people I like.
It's always good to have that friend in your ear.
Well, yeah. I'm too shy to go approach them myself. So if she goes up and she's not shy, then I can just tag along behind and be like, hello.
I didn't know them to be shy of them in the beginning. I didn't know who they were. So, if you don't know who a celebrity is, you're much less inclined to squee when you see them because they're just a normal person to you. I had no idea who they were. So I didn't have a lot of fear in the beginning. That really helped me. I'm sure I would have been much more nervous if, I was trying to solicit a novel or something. It took me 10 years to do that. Right. I had no fear because I had them. When it's on my own, I have plenty of fear. It was very hard to do the novel and to get that out. So with them, they were my buffers of awesome.
Well, the beautiful thing about if you don't know all the rules, breaking them's easy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's yeah.
No idea.
So I was unaware that Dawn had selected a lot of the artists. So Dawn, did you select Ebass as an artist?
Yes, I sent Joe. I said, this artist is amazing. You need to go find him. And so I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first time you guys met was when you were doing an interview and someone mentioned that they were going to go talk to Ebass. And you were like, I'm supposed to talk to Ebass. And you just took off to talk to Ebass.
You can actually still watch the interview. I say, Dawn told me I'm supposed to meet him. And I just leave the interview completely. It's really funny. So that was the first time I met him. Yeah. And he really helped us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Dawn, it sounds like you had a lot of recommendations and you had a lot of folks that you're looking at kind of as, people to kind of guide both of you in this process. But what about for you? What are some of those classic artists or creators that have inspired you over the years that really kind of got you motivated into going into this? Besides, yeah.
I'm ready.
Go for it.
The first comic book, I also didn't have that long a history with comic books. I think I saw my first comic book in English when I was 19, and that was Gen 13. by J. Scott Campbell. And that was it. I was just like, oh my God, this art is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And then I just started hardcore collecting anything Campbell drew. And then from there, I found the Top Cow crew. So I started following Mark Silvestri, Ebass, all of those artists. And then from there, Aspen Comics and Mike Turner and, you know, and then those were kind of the crew that I really got deeply attached to artistically. So I'd say that I learned so much just by going through the school of Danger Girl and Witchblade and just looking at them and studying the art and stuff. And then, of course, once we got to meet the artists and I got to meet Ebass and Campbell, and they would, you know, give us morsels of wisdom every so often. It was amazing.
Dawn actually told me her biggest dream was to do a connecting cover with J. Scott Campbell. This was like, when I randomly called her, I was like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 10 years. I really need some help making a comic book. Do you want to do it? And she, bless her heart, was like, sure. So I flew her out to Mexico and I was like, well, I can't pay you, but maybe I could do something. And she was like, oh, my dream is to have a connecting cover with Scott Campbell. I don't think he's ever done it with anybody before. And I didn't know that it was a big deal or a thing. I was just like, sure, okay. I asked him, and sweet Scott said yes and did it. And I think that also helped us learn a lot. We learned a lot from those lines. I mean, no one's ever studied a piece like we studied that piece he drew for us. We really looked and learned a lot. I would say there were little things that helped us along the way that everybody saw so much talent and promise in Dawn. Like they just looked at her portfolio and their work and they were like, yep, this girl's a star. She's amazing. So a lot of people really helped us. But basically anyone who's ever worked for Rothic, besides Chrome, Sabine, and Dawn and Eric, was picked by Dawn, even Eric. So, and Sabine. Dawn picked Sabine too. Dawn picked everybody. I picked Dawn, and then Dawn picked everybody else.
I think it's awesome. Your old school, your oldest old school guys are like in their 30s.
Right. They were old school.
If someone like me and Chris go old school, the guys that we talk about are in their 80s.
My introduction to comics was when I was 19, so it's definitely like 90s comics. I didn't know them before that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just wouldn't want those guys to hear you referring to them as old school. They're still modern, still totally cutting edge.
See, that's William's nice way of saying, then if they're old school, then what about Chris and me? So that's
Died 20
I'm
years.
trying to think. You know, I was coming in when John Romita Sr., Steve Ditko.
Wow.
Those are the people drawing from Jack Kirby, drawing for Marvel.
I studied Jack Kirby a lot. I love King Kirby. He was really amazing.
Yeah.
I studied his work for a while.
And I believe after looking at him, I think everyone should be able to crank out 5 full books a month, Dawn.
Right.
So
wow.
I know.
Wasn't he
really
doing
bad.
like 4 or 5 books a month back in the 60s? He was.
But if you see that picture of him at his art thing, there's always a pot of coffee.
Yeah, you have to mainline that stuff.
And he's just pouring and drawing, pouring and drawing.
So the old Marvel way was for Stan Lee, who took credit for everything, to write a rough outline of a script and hand it to the artist, and the artist essentially created everything, from what I understand, many times. So that's like the Marvel way.
That's my way too.
So what does JP send to you, Dawn? You then create the image. What is she sending you a full script?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Right? Yeah. I mean, for DiVinica, I got a full script and it says, you know, the pages. And then, but, you know, Joe does give me a lot of artistic freedom, which I really appreciate, because then, you know, I can try to add a few more pages or ask her about adjusting things, or, you know, if I have an idea for a scene, I'll put that in there and ask her about it. But I can't write to save my life, so I'm not trying to step on Joe's toes in any way on that. But if I get an art idea, I'll present it to her, and she's really cool about that. I like it.
Also, a lot of times when artists read my work, editors too, they all get these wild ideas like, hey, why don't you change 45 pages of your book and do this instead? But when it's with a novel, it's a bummer. But when it's with a comic book, it's actually awesome because sometimes they'll misinterpret the way I meant it originally, or they'll get a different idea in their head. And then it'll be like a surprise to me when I see it. But most of the time, it's a really good surprise. We work really closely on the things that matter, but the more I work with Dawn, the less it matters because I know she's just going to kill it. So,
Someone says here, Dawn doesn't English so good. It is true. I don't English so good.
Yeah.
It's really
And just so you know, Chris and William, people are saying if those artists are old school, then you guys are vintage.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of classy.
It's 10 years before antique.
Yeah.
Right. And then we got here.
Hair for it. I've got the hair for it. I've got the hair for vintage.
And old school is the new school. I like that. That is true. Hey, Chris, let's take a quick break here. Let's talk about another one of our friends with Planet Comicon, our good friends over at Bebop Comics. And
yes.
Yeah.
Frank at Bebop. He's been around for many, many years. He was a distributor years ago when he was a teenager, a distributor in suburban Chicago. He's been a comic book retailer in the Kansas City area for, he was the retailer when I arrived here in 1995. So, and Bebop, under a different name, has also supported Planet Comicon Kansas City since the very beginning, taking our flyers and most years setting up at the show. So I got to thank Frank for that. He has 2 locations, one here in Overland Park and one on the north side. Are they both listed there? Yeah, one on Northwest Berry Road, the other on 95th Street in Overland Park. So I want to thank Frank for his support of Planet Comicon throughout the years. And I encourage comic book fans throughout the city to support the various comic shops, including Bebop.
Yeah, very awesome. Very awesome. It looks like we might have had a little bit of a technical difficulty. I think JP is going to get back with us here in a second, so she might have just slipped out of the stream for a moment. But we'll keep things going. And Don, we're just going to put you on the
hot seat.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, welcome to 20 Questions. This is where the game show really turns.
Oh boy.
You can practice your English.
I can practice my English. That's good.
So Dawn, I hear people say it, and I've talked to artists about this before. They'll say, a fan will come up and say, oh, you're a really gifted artist. And I know many artists who don't like that term.
Right.
And I think this would apply to you as well. They say,
Yeah.
It's not gift, this is hard work.
It
and
is.
I think you can attest to that.
It is. It comes from a lot of study. I wouldn't say that like someone is born being a good artist. I've just been watching, like even with my kids, and just I guess the older I've gotten, the more I've observed, and I feel that it begins as an interest. And anyone that's kind of an artist today, I feel really weird making these kind of statements. I have a hard time making statements, but I think I'm going to go ahead and make a statement. In my opinion, anyone who's an artist today is somebody in first grade that really enjoyed drawing, just like all the other kids in first grade, but they're the one that kept drawing. And there are artists that do have the ability to have imagination beyond anything you can imagine. And I do believe that there is a small amount of gift involved in that. So, I can't get pissed at somebody for saying, oh, you're such a gifted artist, really, because, they mean it in a good way. They mean it in a complimentary way, but art takes a lot of work and it takes study. And if there's something that you're not particularly good at, you got to work at it in order to fix that. I've got some study books back there and I am working to learn because there are things like perspective that I just freaking hate, but I have to study it, But yeah, that would be my opinion on gifted versus not.
Yeah. There's a great comment here from Sarah White here. I agree, Don, 100%. There's a knack, a gift, and interest that's taken and practiced and worked on through years. And that's truth. Talent will only take you so far. I've seen a lot of talented people who don't do anything with it,
Right.
Yeah.
So is there a particular aspect of art that you have struggled with, or is that something you would want to discuss? Like, let's take Rob Liefeld, for example, with ankles. Anything
in my opinion, okay, getting two eyes on a straight-on face to be looking at you, I always have like a traveling eye. Joe and I joke about it every time with covers. I'm like, are they looking at us, or is there an eye that's kind of going that way? But for me, drawing a body is not very difficult, but to put that body, like to draw the body in an angle, I don't struggle with so much. But to put some buildings on the same angle with said body, I don't like it. But I'm learning.
He's amazing at it.
Yeah. Chris,
Sorry.
I think we have.
Again, I didn't mean to. I don't know. It said you have been kicked from the call. I was like, well,
I blame Chris. That's just kind of standard. So
I've got a button here, JP. If I'm tired of listening to you, press the button.
Perfect.
Well, I think, Chris, we have a cover here from a past program, I think, for Comicon.
This is an exclusive comic book.
Yeah. Let me pull that one up for everybody. This is pretty awesome. And I think in terms of just those eyes, they're looking straight at you.
Yes. Success.
Yes.
She wanted
the school teacher in the fountain look here for us. I don't.
There you go.
And by the way, those are my initials on the pendant.
Yes.
So
Oh.
you can't really see it down below here, down below the planet. You'll see a pendant. They have my initials.
What did you go to, Chris? I didn't go to that school. You said teacher forgotten. I didn't go to that school.
So
yeah, Dawn did this, 3 years ago, Dawn? Something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, or more. Is that like a 2014? I don't know.
14 or
I'll need
15.
to look.
Yeah.
15?
I think
I think it
so.
was 2015. I love the colors. And by the way, you brought in some great colors for your work.
Well, Ula colored that one.
Yes.
So she gets the credit for that.
it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And I love the fountain. It fits. City of Fountains, Kansas City. Dig it. Totally dig it. You know, it's really interesting. We were talking a little bit before we went live, and I know you two have opinions on this. You know, obviously, again, we're talking about, you know, the portrayal of female characters in comic books have always kind of, you know, they've gone through an evolution. You know, what are some of those sort of stereotypes and tropes that, as you build out your characters, build out these worlds, both visually and through your writing, what are some of these things that you try to purposefully sort of get rid of, these sort of stereotypes and tropes in comics that you purposely try to get rid of in order to bring your stories to life?
I try to take away certain types of sexual stereotypes. I really want my girl to still be sexy, but I try to add other elements in it that make a woman sexy, despite just what we're normally used to, either the big boobs or the half naked. My girls are often quite naked, but I try and do it in a bit of a different way to maybe advertise other things about a woman. That's their sensuality. We deal a lot with the mind. I think a woman's mind can be very sexy. So I like to try and maybe just not give her as, like, I love the way women have been done a lot in comic books, but there's been a lot of boobs and no brains, a lot of brawn and no substance in a lot of things. And it kind of gives people a wrong impression of, or, you know, there's the typical girl with the glasses who's also sexy, but it's like, it's either that or that. And we've tried to merge the two. And I know that Dawn definitely has certain things that she tries to do and certain things that she won't do as well, to kind of keep it's being done by a woman. So we still want to give guys what they want to see, but I also want women to be able to understand and find the characters sexy as well. Yeah.
And Dawn, how's that translate from an art standpoint? Because again, we deal with a lot of stereotypical sort of representation of women, everything from how they're dressed to how they're posed. And what's different for you when you approach your work?
I just like to draw what I find pretty and strong and attractive and what looks nice to me. I know I have it easier though. I am a woman, so I can be like, I'm a woman. I approve this message. So I know that I've got it easier than say the male artists who do take a good bit of flack sometimes for how they portray a woman when they're also drawing what's beautiful to them. you know. But I like drawing interesting outfits. That for me is fun because I like to draw them. It's kind of like the grown-up version of being able to, like, you know, draw a princess when I was 8, you know. And I just get to do it in the adult way now. Okay, that sounds bad. In the grown-up way, yes, and they are princesses.
Naked princess.
So for me, I want to draw things that are respectful, and you know, I mean respect when I'm drawing them. I respect the character. I respect the author. In many cases, it's JP. And so I respect what she's trying to accomplish there. I really kind of draw her into a lot of my work, even though people are always saying I'm drawing me. I'm not. I'm drawing her a lot. It is my inspiration. and so for that's kind of where I approach it all.
Yeah.
I really like what Sarah said, brains and brawn and curves with a sense of strength. I think that that's important to try and convey. A lot of male artists do it really good. I think Eric does an amazing job of it. I think Campbell does an incredible, a lot of artists do, male artists do really good jobs with it. And it's not just all about, you know, the boobies. Yeah, DNA, there's more to it. Yeah. Curves the mission. There's some really beautiful series that are put out right now by Image. What's her name? Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry.
Mercy?
Yes, Mercy. That is my best example. She's a total badass, but definitely with a lot more to her that makes her beautiful and sensual. And also to keep in the beautiful parts about a woman. We can make her naked, but you know, she can be fighting people, but still put pretty things and lace on her and flowers in her hair. Or keep it really badass, because some women can be either way, you know, however, just to give a place for everyone's personality in there and not just, you know, the He-Man or the naked hooer.
Well, and it's ownership too. It's ownership of that. Yeah, it's ownership of that space. It's ownership of that identity too, that I think is super important. So yeah, I love. Yeah, Sarah's absolutely right. Brains and bronze and curves with a sense of strength, and owning that and being your own agent in that. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. I do want to talk about Ancient Dreams, the novel here. So we'll get to that in a second here. Chris, let's do 2 of them here. Let's talk about our friends at Pop Culture Comics and A to Z here in Blue Springs.
There you go. Pop Culture Comics as Sid Smith, and they have been supporting Planet for many years. He's been around for several years up on 87th Street in Overland Park. Sid is a very strong part of the local comic community and has been very supportive of Planet ever since he started his store. So he's one of the local Overland Park stores.
Yeah.
We have A to Z Comics, which is Debbie out in Blue Springs on Highway 40. Aww. And I don't get out there very much, and Debbie doesn't come to the show very often, but literally since day one, she has supported Planet Comicon Kansas City, and I must thank Debbie for that.
Yeah, and A to Z is my local shop here in Blue Springs, down on Highway 40. So, yeah, good folks and a great community that's around that particular shop for sure.
Absolutely, we appreciate all they've done for Planet and for the comic community in Kansas City. So
there you go.
Shopping. Sure.
There you go. All right, so JP, let's talk a little bit about this. So I've got this really cool graphic that you sent me because it's got fire and flames on it. So I definitely want to show it.
Oh, I didn't mean to send you that one. I was trying to send you the regular version.
I kind of like this. I think it's.
Okay. That was one that my agent made for me this morning. Sorry, I don't know how that one got attached, but yay, it is cool.
There we go.
I dig it. So,
how are you going to make the cover do that at the bookstore?
Yeah, I wish. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Super cool.
Yeah. So
it's also online where you can buy it. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So I mean, Ancient Dreams was the original inspiration where you wanted to be with getting the story out. It took a little bit of a turn and through through comics, but now you're bringing back to a novel. And how is it different for you in taking this story through this particular medium now?
It's been interesting because the whole time I've basically just been sending Mike Crone, he's the main artist for Ancient Dreams, and I've basically just been sending him chapters of the book and he's writing them in sequence. So it won't be too much different. There's just a few changed. It's definitely a dream come true. I did have a lot of faith and belief in the comics, but I was very nervous about the book. You get a lot of rejection in this industry. in comics and in writing and anything to do with the arts or entertainment. Rejection is just par for the course. And I was young and I had thin skin, and I kind of gave up in the beginning with the novel and just thought, I got yeses by a few places that I didn't want to publish the book and stuff. So I kind of just gave up on that and went head first into the comics. But of course, I never even wanted to be a comic book author. I certainly never wanted to own a comic book company or worry about shipping and printing and all that. I never meant to do any of that. So it was always my dream to do the novel. And I did it again. It's really hard, by the way. If you're trying to break into any industry, you have to be prepared for so many no's. And you really have to just say, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And of course, I had amazing people, friends and family telling me to go for it and to do it. Dawn, she always encouraged me so much. But it's definitely hard. And then as soon as Stephanie Hansen, she was my first choice. She's an amazing author herself. She actually just finished a book called Altered Helix. And she is the owner and senior agent of Metamorphosis Literary Agency. And she was my very number one. And when she said yes, I guess the rest just snowballed from there. I'm very excited to have it out.
That's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. We have a question here. Is it going to be available as an audiobook?
Yes, I'm actually recording it right now myself. They asked me to do the recording. I had to audition for it and everything. I'm almost finished. I'll put up some videos of me in the studio. I don't have you just have to bleep out my language when I make music. But I've been recording it and it's fun. I've never done an audiobook before. I think it's already available for pre-sale on Audible, and I have a serious deadline. So
I was going to wait, I get this right. You had to audition for it?
Well, yeah, as an author, of course, if you have to audition, if Audible says yes, they'll take your book. You have to make sure you don't sound like a retard, so you have to be able to read. And Chris is closing his eyes at me and shaking his head. I don't mean
No, I'm not. I didn't do that.
It's from The Hangover. It's a quote. No, you have to make sure. I have a really bad lisp, so it's me personally who doesn't always sound the best. But I'm doing it. They liked me, so I'm doing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love this comment here. The novel's on fire.
Yeah.
I'm noticing my copy. There's no
Not
flame
on fire.
shooting up out of it. Yeah.
No flames.
I'm a little disappointed in this.
I think yours is broken.
Mine's broken. Exactly. I'm going to return it.
Freshly
By the way,
ordered.
JP's book is available through several sources. Let's let people know. Let's plug the book. It's
Yeah.
on
Everywhere?
Amazon. It's
You
on.
get it everywhere.
Okay, everywhere. We'll narrow it down. It's available everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Kindle, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Google Play Books, anywhere you can buy a book. You can even just Google Ancient Dreams right now by JP Roth, and it'll pop up, and you can actually read a few pages, get a sample, see it online. It's got its own page now.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is it weird? Is it weird now? I mean, 8 years. I mean, I'm sure you're dreaming about this before then. I mean, is it strange now to actually hold it in your hand and see it?
Yeah, I haven't held it in my hand yet, but it was my dream to buy it on Google Play. I have about 15,000 books on Google Play.
I'm holding it before you are.
I know you are. Yeah, a lot of people are.
I
Gosh,
feel
I
very
was supposed
special.
to get my copies, and I never did. Well, I haven't gotten them yet. I'll be very excited when I do. But I own it on Kindle and Nook and Google Play. I went and bought it everywhere.
That's awesome.
Definitely a big dream of mine. Dawn's always saying that she looks back at her old work and she often hates it. She's like, you can't publish that. There's some covers, by the way, that she's drawn for me that she won't even let me publish. They're so beautiful. She even redid one. But now I've always been mean to her about it and giving her, what for. And now I feel the same way. It's older work. It was written 10 years ago. It's definitely been fixed up since. But now I know how she feels.
Yeah.
I'm a
Oh,
little nervous, and I hope it does good. I think
it's
it's
amazing.
Don't get rid of those old covers, though.
yeah.
Keep them around.
Yeah.
Okay, now I learned two things there. One is I want to see this artwork that Dawn has not let anyone see. So now I got to pester Dawn after this call. But and two, another little. I don't know if you want to bring this up. Are there plans for a second book?
Ooh.
Oh, yes. It's actually already written and edited, and it'll be out shortly. That's Ancient Dreams Book 2. And then I've also written another book called Red Velvet, and that will be out in a couple of months as well. And I won the contract with Dreamscape on there, so it'll be an actress reading it, not me, but exciting as well. So you can find it everywhere for that one as well.
I want to say thank you to Dustin Evans for putting all those links into the chat there of all the different places.
Dustin.
Yeah, so there's Amazon, there's Google Play, there's the ebook, there's the physical book. So Dustin's all over it. Thank you, buddy. Yeah.
And as I recall, when I met you years ago, JP, very early on, you corrected me when I referred to you as a comic book writer. You said, no, Chris, I'm an author and a comic book writer.
Yeah.
And I've tried to be very careful since then in introducing you.
Well, I say anyone can be a writer, but it takes about 20 years to become an author. It's really hard to get published. I mean, for me, I really had this opinion of I can do anything. And as soon as I went into the book world, I was like, I can't do it. It's too hard. It's very difficult. There's so much competition, and it's definitely a tough world. So I feel like I'm starting all over again in a whole new industry when it was the one I was originally going for. It's very strange. I'm grateful for the
good thing about comics, though. You can publish a comic yourself at the hands-on-yourself printer, go to Planet Comicon, and it's like if you're selling a novel, you can't go, hey, read these 400 pages.
That's right.
Here's my thing. They can look right at it and go, I'll buy that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I am old school about publishing. I love everyone who self-publishes and makes it, but I already did that for comics, and I will never want to do that again. So going traditional was also very tough, because right now in this day and age, there's so much self-publishing you can do. And I probably would have sold well, because the book's been out for 8 years, and we've sold definitely over 1 million copies of the Ancient Dreams comic. So, I probably would have done fine, but I really wanted to go original. I really wanted to go traditional. So I'm old school like you guys. There you go.
But let me ask this. I mean, I know that you really want to be get the novel out there, and it sounds like you're still writing, but there are more comics in the work too, right?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I'm doing all that. We've taken a bit of a pause with some of the other ones during this difficult time, and the different schedules changing and stuff like that. But we are finishing Rem 8. Sabine is finishing the new Rem 8. Mike Crome is doing the new Ancient Dreams 10, which is in the Greek part. So you're going to get Mike Crome drawing Ares and fighting Poseidon. And I mean, seriously good art from Mike is coming. And then Dawn and I are just about to start up on DiVinica 6. So it's actually going to be centered in this dystopian other world that we've created. It's really like nothing. If you've not read the comic book, I don't know anything like what we've done. We just made stuff up for real. Yeah. So it's really a different type of world. I'd like to see how people react to it.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing that stuff. I look forward to seeing, maybe in a future Talking Comics, it'll be something that William holds up to the screen and says, you can get this on Wednesday. It's coming out soon. So we're going to talk comics. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening this week, getting on the shelves. We'd love for you guys to stick around, please. I know you guys are fans just as much as we are of the new stuff that's going to be coming out. So love to hear your commentary as well. But, thank you for being here. Thank you for talking about the new novel, talking about DiVinica, Ancient Dreams, everything else, Rothic. Dawn and JP, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
I had more questions for both of you. This went so quickly. I wanted to go through Dawn's entire history of comics and what she's working on now, but we'll do that another time. So thank you. I
definitely have to have you back, but stick around. Yeah. Let's hand it over to William. Let's see what's cooking, man.
And we meet backstage, by the way, a little bit after this. So if you ladies want to stick around, we can chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
William, you're up.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You guys are amazing.
Yeah. So what's shaking, William? What's going to be new on the shelves at Elite this week?
Start with, since they mentioned it, Merca.
Ooh, yeah.
We're printing on Mercy #1, which sold out before it shipped, and the new Mercy #2, which ships tomorrow.
Ooh.
Well, shipped today, on sale tomorrow.
Very cool.
If you're not if you're not looking at Merca, you're missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely Dynamite. It looks a little bit familiar, like Dawn may have drawn some of it. Similar style.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But
It's such a beautiful.
has come from unknown like a year ago to like one of the hottest artists in comics right now.
And that's Image, right?
That is in comics,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Oni has a new from Cullen Bunn, who's I think he's a St. Louis guy.
Yes.
Is Cullen from St. Louis?
Well, no, Cullen Bunn moved down to Wichita or Springfield, one of the two.
Maybe Springfield. So written by Cullen Bunn, and this
Springfield,
happens to be variant cover by Kyle Strom, who's a Kansas City guy and has been at Planet Comicon many, many, many times.
Almost every time for the last 10, 12, 15 years.
So that's a Kyle variant cover. This is a cool alien invasion comic. Let's see. Who posted this? Oh, a new Aftershock comic.
Ooh.
Inc. These are like radioactive superheroes that are created after Hiroshima.
Oh, cool.
So that's
Wow.
really cool.
Are they black belt hamsters?
They are not. I don't think there's any rodents in this at all.
Are you two, Dawn and Joe, have you been in long enough to remember the old black and white craze from the 80s when there was a comic called Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters?
No.
No, but I've since seen it.
I found a set of them in my basement just the other day. I should have pulled them out for you guys.
Not
Oh
the
my
comic.
God.
The actual hamster.
They actually.
The actual hamsters. That's my
And
basement.
then Marvel Comics is finally back this week.
Yay.
Back in 2 months. And this is Jason Aaron, another Kansas City guy, writes Avengers now. And this is his first time getting to put Moon Knight in a comic.
Ooh.
Nice.
He's a huge Moon Knight fan, so he's been trying to get them to let him put Moon Knight into the Avengers for a good long time. So this should be awesome.
He's been sending in scripts for several years now with Moon Knight stuck in a few panels.
Yeah, Jason gets to kind of do whatever he wants anymore. He's kind of a big shot now.
Right.
This new original graphic novel from Image, Declan Shelby. This thing has been people are really excited about it. So it was supposed to come out. Obviously, the original ship date was the week everyone got shut down. So they're waiting for Bog Bodies for 2 months now. It's an Irish gangster story. Some gangsters lost out in the bog somewhere, and they got to evade the other gangsters chasing them down. But it's really cool looking, kind of a dual. It's full color, but it's a mood for sure. They got it's a all blues and blacks
That's cool. Beautiful.
kind of feel. And then a couple new art books, which I thought were really cool. The Machine Never Blinks, the graphic history of spying and surveillance.
Ooh.
So this is kind of cool. It's just like got, like here's a chapter on the Red Scare. When everyone was spying on you because maybe you were theoretically a communist. Oh, chapter 9, the second Red Scare. And evidently now the third Red Scare, where I've been seeing signs that if you wear a mask, you are a communist.
So an interesting thing with that stuff, William, is like I think graphic novels are some of the most checked out books for kids these days coming out of libraries, and librarians love them because they are some of the most effective teaching tools that are out there. So something with a historical bent like that is probably going to get some eyeballs for sure.
Yeah. I had one more art book.
Yeah.
Hung, Drawn, and Executed.
Oof.
4 movie posters.
Ooh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of really great, and it's even got like the technique stuff, like how they laid out the backgrounds, and because I mean people don't oil paint movie posters anymore, but they did in the old days.
Wow.
Yeah. Look at that.
Really pretty.
Yeah, so this is a cool new art book that's out this week.
Very awesome.
Yeah. I think people take for granted what it took to bring some of those posters and those things to life when they did, anymore. It seems like it's, the tools are there. The creativity, though, of course, that's always the rarity.
A lot of movie posters anymore is what they call a basket full of fruit. It's just, movie stars' heads stacked in a fruit basket, and their agent negotiates who has the biggest head in the fruit basket. You take like 100 movie posters and just change the actors, and it's just like, well, Robert Downey Jr. is obviously the star. Look how giant his head is in that basket.
Yeah.
It's like a word cloud, but a head cloud.
Yeah.
It's all based on salary.
They're cool though. Like, I think it's cool that Dawn's painting all those covers, because I think all these guys that do digital, it's cool and it's faster maybe.
Yeah.
But they
But
don't
it's a lot of tricks.
afterward. They don't have anything to sell afterwards.
Yeah.
Dawn's got all
You
those
have some things to sell. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
John
You can-
painted all the interior pages by
Right.
hand as well, like the
Yeah.
whole book.
I mean,
whole
think
book
of
is painted.
how much art you
Insane
have.
amount of work.
Yeah. It's
So that's
amazing
all
stuff.
painted.
Yeah, I did mention that. So it's not just covers; it's interior
Right.
pages.
Crazy.
So you're
Guys on a whole secondary market of selling the original art if it's only in the computer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're dedicated, Dawn, and you're a glutton for punishment.
Yes, 100%.
100%. The worst glutton for punishment you've ever met.
Joe does try to talk some sense and realism into me, but it doesn't compute. No.
It'll take as long as it takes.
Yeah.
She'll do it how she wants it. That's what I've learned about Dawn.
Yeah, but once they make the DiVinica movie and those covers sell for $500,000 a piece, she'll have it on you.
Yeah. Right.
Or
Right.
some of Dawn's fans will be really wealthy.
Yes, I think that's more like, yeah.
Dawn.
Well, William, thank you for taking through those. I mean, just again, if you have any, if you want to go to to your local comic purveyor, of course we love William. We love Elite Comics. Thank you, William, for being here and for walking us through those and for bringing us an adventure every single week. And I'm glad you guys are. I bet the conversations on Wednesday are a lot more interesting when it's not just you by yourself. So
Yeah, it's been me and the dog for a couple months. So.
yeah. So I guess I'm not sure which of us is the dog in this one, Chris, but we'll just go with it. So no.
I meant my actual dog, but that's fine.
No, but thank you again, William. We look.
Dirty dogs.
And William, by the way, has been part of. For those who are watching for the first time, William's been part of Planet since the very beginning too. William started the show with me back in 1999. And was involved
amazing.
In ownership and management for a couple of years, and then went to do his own thing. So, William, thank you for all you've done for Planet throughout the years.
Yeah.
No, my pleasure.
So, Chris, let's we got some. An hour goes too fast. You're absolutely right.
Oh,
So
man,
we need to have JP and Don back. You guys just need to come back. That's all there is to it. So it's going to be either a future Planet Comic-Con, or it's going to be a future Talking Comics, or it's going to be all of the above. So there's that.
Well, I really am looking forward to seeing them live at a show soon, whether it be Planet or another, because we do run into each other at many shows. I think I first met Dawn in Calgary several years ago. So
Oh, wow.
at the Calgary Expo. So,
Oh,
but
wow.
I am looking forward to seeing you at a show and hopefully my show in the relatively near future.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Chris, we've got some upcoming streams here. Obviously, we got the next cosplay crafter one on Sunday, and we have Casey Renee cosplay. So we're really excited to have her. Amazing. By the way, if you don't follow her, she is on TikTok, like many cosplayers are, and you can imagine with some of these dresses that she has some really interesting tutorials on how to fit through doors that my good friend Dustin shared with me, which is an absolute riot. And but Casey's one of our cosplay judges, a regular at Planet Comic-Con. We look forward to talking with her. Our good friends at US Magic and Costume US Toy Magic and Costume Shop will be hosting the chat on Sunday. Jelly Bean will be there with Casey. And then this
Can I
other,
plug one more thing?
you bet.
I forgot to plug on June 5th. We have Clayton Crane is going to do a signing in the store.
Very cool.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I forgot I was supposed to plug that earlier. 2 to 5 on June 5th. He's doing a cross-country driving trip and stopping at various stores on the way.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Very
Dawn,
cool.
do you want to promote an upcoming live art stream? Do you have anything coming up scheduled?
Oh, yeah. Well, every Tuesday, except today I'm doing this instead, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday afternoon from 5 to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch whenever YouTube doesn't delete me. So safe bet, Twitch and Facebook, just to show the process of creating comic art. So I'll be working on whatever happens to be on my work schedule. Like all of DiVinica was done on Twitch. So, you know, I'm not every little bit, but at the whole process, people can see how it's made. If you have comic or art related questions, you can ask me there. So that's where you can find me.
Very cool.
I remember I watched a couple of weeks ago, and you were doing a very detailed drawing of a woman in thigh-high hose, and it was what? Isn't that correct? You doing some hose?
Thigh highs? I'm always drawing thigh highs, so probably.
But you had some particular shading on them you were trying to do.
Oh, interesting.
So,
I don't recall.
Clearly, you don't remember that. Okay.
No.
Clearly that
It wasn't as criminal a moment for her as it was for you.
No. I watched it and go, wow, that's an interesting little drawing there. So that clearly.
Dawn has a lot of amazing drawing tricks, actually. If you are an aspiring artist and you want to learn some really interesting tricks, you should definitely go on her stream. She's got so many cool things that she knows how to do to, one, speed up the process of doing everything by hand, because digital gives you so many tricks. She's awesome at it.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of
Well, I've had a lot of artists that have passed on some of their knowledge to me. So, you know, I've learned from some amazing artists, and if I can pay it forward, this is what I'm trying to do.
Very good. And then, so we're going to say goodbye for this week, but Chris, do you want to introduce our guest for next week?
Yes, next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. we'll be coming on with Freddie Williams, another local creator who has been very supportive of Planet and has many published books in the works. And we'll be getting updates on his career and his latest work and having a chat with Freddie Williams. William and I will be having a nice chat. So.
Awesome. Everybody, hey, thanks again, Chris, William, always. You know, it's fun to be here. JP and Dawn, thank you so much for being here this week.
Thank you so
much. Love you all.
Yep. And we'll always have a little conversation here backstage, but for everybody else, we'll see you again. We'll see you on Sunday.
And then we've lost it. Okay. Well, that was very timely. So we have time for more conversation.
I got to train up. I know. I sneak out of the room and all this stuff happens.
So that's funny.
Thank you again, everybody. And we'll see you again here next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, talking comics. Take care, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Mission sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11.